Open your fridge right now. Count the items. Notice how many of them didn't exist 10,000 years ago. Almost none of them did. Your body was not built for this. It was built for something far stranger, far messier, and far more interesting than anything on your grocery list. For most of human history, there was no such thing as a meal plan. There was no breakfast, lunch, or dinner. There was only the question every single day. What can you find before you starve? That question shaped your teeth. It shaped your gut. It shaped the very shape of your brain. And the answer to it is nothing like what most people assume. You've probably heard the caveman story. Big slab of meat over a fire. A man dragging a mammoth leg back to his family. It's a nice image. It's also mostly wrong. Anthropologists who study modern hunter-gatherer groups, the closest living windows into that ancient diet, keep finding the same surprising pattern. Meat was rare. Plants were constant, and the real hero of the human diet wasn't muscle. It was something far smaller. Take honey. Researcher Alyssa Crittenden, who has spent years studying the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last groups on Earth who still forage the way humans did for millennia, found that honey can make up a huge portion of their caloric intake during certain seasons. Not meat. Honey. Concentrated sugar hunted down with smoke and bare hands, often shared with a wild bird called the honey guide, which leads humans straight to the hive in exchange for the leftover wax. That relationship is thousands of years old. Your ancestors weren't just eating with nature, they were negotiating with it. But honey wasn't available every day. So what filled the rest of the plate? Roots, tubers, nuts, fibrous plants that modern humans would barely recognize as food, let alone want to eat raw. Digging sticks, not spears, were probably the most important tool in the early human toolkit. Women in most hunter-gatherer societies were responsible for a huge share of the daily calories, quietly pulling starchy roots out of the ground while the dramatic image of the hunt got all the attention. The unglamorous work fed the tribe. The exciting work made the legends. Here's where it gets stranger. Your body isn't actually built like a lion's or a wolf's. It's built more like an opportunist's. Biological anthropologist Catherine Milton, who spent decades comparing the diets of primates in the wild, found that the great apes closest to humans survive almost entirely on fruit, leaves, and insects, with meat as a rare bonus, not a staple. Your gut length, shorter than a cow's, longer than a wolf's, sits right in the middle. It's the gut of a generalist, a creature built to eat whatever it could find, wherever it happened to be standing. So if plants were the backbone, why do we tell the meat story so much? Because meat changed everything, even in small amounts. A rare kill meant a burst of fat and protein that plants alone couldn't offer. It meant surplus, it meant sharing, which meant social bonds, which meant the beginning of cooperation on a scale no other primate had ever managed. But there's a twist even bigger than the meat itself. It's what humans did to their food before they ate it: fire. Primatologist and biological anthropologist Richard Wrangham built an entire theory around this single idea. He argued that cooking, not meat, not tools, not even language, was the true turning point in human evolution. Cooked food is easier to digest. It releases more calories for less chewing. A raw yam takes enormous energy just to break down. A cooked yam hands that energy over almost for free. Wrangham's research suggests that once your ancestors started cooking consistently, their guts could shrink and their brains, which are enormously expensive to run, could grow. You are quite literally sitting here able to think this thought because someone a very long time ago figured out how to control fire and pointed at dinner. Doesn't that change the picture? The real ancient diet wasn't meat versus plants. It was raw versus cooked. It was constant versus occasional. It was whatever the land offered that week, prepared with whatever trick made it easier to survive on, and the diet wasn't the same everywhere. That's the part modern diet culture conveniently forgets. Humans in the Arctic ate almost entirely animal fat and protein for most of the year because that's what existed there. Humans near the equator ate dozens of different plant species across a single season because the land offered abundance instead of scarcity. There was no single paleo diet. There were hundreds of them, each one a direct negotiation with a specific patch of earth. The one thing they all shared wasn't a food group. It was variety, unpredictability, and constant movement between one and the next. Think about what that means for your own plate. Modern humans eat the same handful of crops over and over, grown in the same soil, harvested in the same season, shipped from the same few regions: wheat, corn, rice, soy. A tiny slice of what your ancestors' bodies were built to expect. Your gut bacteria, an entire ecosystem living inside you right now, evolved to process dozens of different plant fibers in a single month. Most modern diets offer it a fraction of that. No wonder so many people feel like something is quietly off, even when nothing is technically wrong. There's a deeper twist hiding underneath all of this. Scarcity wasn't the enemy of ancient humans, it was the teacher. Every season of hunger sharpened memory, sharpened cooperation, sharpened the ability to track, predict, and plan. The instinct to crave sugar, salt, and fat, the instinct that now drives you toward a bag of chips at 11 at night, isn't a flaw in your design. It's a survival algorithm from an era when calories were never guaranteed. Your brain still runs that old program, it just doesn't know the famine ended. Why does this matter now? Sitting in a world with more food available than any human generation in history has ever had. Because your biology hasn't caught up to your grocery store. You're not weak for wanting sugar. You're ancient. You're not undisciplined for craving fat late at night. You're running software written for a world of scarcity, installed into a body now surrounded by permanent abundance. Understanding that doesn't excuse every choice. But it does explain the pull, the one that feels so much bigger than willpower alone. There's something almost humbling in this. The people who came before you weren't eating for pleasure the way food commercials suggest today. They were eating for information. Every taste told them something. Bitter meant possible poison. Sweet meant safe, rare energy. Fatty meant survival through the next cold season. Your own tongue still carries that ancient decoder even now, even as you scroll past 100 ads for food that never existed in nature at all. So the next time you open that fridge, take a second look. Somewhere underneath the packaging and the preservatives is a body still shaped by roots pulled from dry earth, by honey stolen from angry bees, by meat shared in tense silence around a fire, by a diet that changed with every horizon your ancestors crossed. Nothing about your hunger is random. It's a message, sent across hundreds of thousands of years, still trying to keep you alive in a world that no longer needs it to fight quite so hard. Open your fridge again. This time, you're not just looking for a snack. You're looking at the tail end of the longest experiment in human history, still running quietly inside you.